So you're thinking of moving to Scottsdale, Arizona, but you're not sure, can I afford to live there? I've heard Scottsdale is an expensive place to live, so I just don't know if I can swing living there, although I've heard great things about it and would love to live there. I know it's one of the more affluent cities in the Phoenix area. Well, if that's you, we're gonna break it all down right here, 2025 style, so you're fully informed, so you know with the increase of cost of this I word called inflation, if you can still afford it. So watch this video to the end because you know I like bonuses. I'm gonna throw in an extra bonus for you at the very end you're not gonna wanna miss. Now, speaking of Scottsdale, I've been an agent in Scottsdale for 20 years. I can't even believe it's been 20 years, and I would love to answer any questions you have about our beloved city. I've lived here for 20 years. I've sold real estate here for 20 years, and my office is right here in Scottsdale as well. You can reach out at 480-660-5974 or just book a discovery call at the Calendly link below. I'd be happy to jump on that call with you at your convenience. So why Scottsdale? Well, Scottsdale is an awesome place to live. It is the mecca for entertainment for the city of Phoenix. It is arguably one of the nicest suburbs and the most well-known suburb in the entire Phoenix area. It is known as the golf mecca of not just the country, but the world. People come from all across the world to play the almost 200 area golf courses throughout the Scottsdale area. And if you're lucky enough, you're going to play one of the private country clubs as well, because we have no shortage of amazing private country clubs. And if you don't believe me, well, just ask half of the PGA Tour. But enough about golf. We're going to compare the cost of living and can you afford or comfortably afford to live in Scottsdale in 2025. And to do that, we're going to set the table, the foundation of where we stood actually when I did my last video on this YouTube channel in 2021, what the cost of living was then compared to what it is in 2025, about 4 years later. This will be interesting. Now, where is Scottsdale in the Phoenix area? Well, if you look at the map right here, you can see that it's connected to Phoenix along its western border. And depending on where you are in Scottsdale, you may only be a 10-minute drive to the center of the entire Phoenix area where Sky Harbor Airport sits and downtown Phoenix. Now, if you're in central Scottsdale, North Scottsdale, it could be anywhere from 20 to 30 and possibly as much as 40 minutes from North Scottsdale all the way down to central center of the Phoenix area. But most people, outside of going to downtown for possibly work and the Sky Harbor Airport to fly commercial, you don't have to leave Scottsdale for much because Scottsdale has just about anything you would want to get into. So has the population of Scottsdale increased over the years? Well, yes, it has. In fact, my last video said the population of Scottsdale was 236,000 people. And the most recent count of population for the most recent census, it has Scottsdale coming in just over 250,000 people. So the population is growing. The median age was 46 years old, and now it is 49 years old. So what that tells you is that more money is possibly flowing into Scottsdale because more people with bigger bucks have typically a little more experience in life, if you catch my drift. But don't think for 1 second that Scottsdale is short of the family or young professional lifestyle, because it is not. It is a vibrant, thriving community of plenty of families and young professionals. I wouldn't consider myself a young professional anymore, unfortunately, but I do have a family with 3 kids. And the kids are growing up in the elementary and middle school age now, but they have spent their entire lives in Scottsdale growing up, and my wife and I have absolutely loved it. So let's talk about schools for just a minute. Now, back in 2021, the school rating had an A grade, and nothing has changed from that standpoint, which is a good thing. In 2025, the grade, according to niche.com, is still a solid A. And we have been thrilled with the public school system for our children. Now, we made that decision to go to public schools because Scottsdale Unified School District is a highly rated district, and the schools in particular they were going to were highly rated schools. But if you chose or wanted to have your child go to a private school or a charter school, there is no shortage of those. In fact, Scottsdale has some of the best charter schools that are actually like a private style school, but yet are free of charge. Schools like Grey Hearts or Basis are located right here in the heart of Scottsdale. So I had to get that schools out for you family people out there, but enough about that. Let's go back to the cost of living. Now we're going to get to the overall grade or cost of living score for Scottsdale. Now, before we break down all these categories, let's understand that all of these categories, when you compare any cost of living across a U.S. city, are going to be based off a score of of 100. 100 is right down the middle, the median of any average city across US. So if it's below 100, you are lower than the average city. And if it's above 100, you are higher in terms of that particular category for cost of living compared to the average US city across America. So everyone has to eat. So let's start with groceries. Groceries back in 2021 came in at 103 on that score. And somehow with all the inflation, the groceries overall are still fairly reasonable. Most currently in 25, the score came in at 106, making Scottsdale groceries 6% more than the average US city. And for a night out of 2 people for a mid-range style meal, back in 21, it was about $77 on average for that type of meal for date night, right? But if you wanted a mid-range meal in 2025, that cost has increased a good amount, and now it's at $92 on average for that date night. Now let's pivot to housing because everyone needs housing. So in housing in 2021, Scottsdale came in at a score of 203, making it 103% more expensive, according to the average US city, to live in Scottsdale, which seems about right. Now, in 2025, that has increased to 230, making it 130% more expensive than the average city when it comes to housing. Why? Because Scottsdale has some of the most expensive real estate in all of Phoenix and, of course, the rest of the country. Scottsdale is a phenomenal place to live, and there is not an overabundance of supply. Why? Because land is scarce. Back in 21, I said that Scottsdale only had about 2% of land left available, privately owned, to build upon, and that remains about the same, a little bit less now at this point. So it makes land scarce, and because a lot of people do want to live in Scottsdale if they can afford it, it makes housing costs go up and up and up. So I don't think over the mid to long term, housing costs in Scottsdale is probably going to go down a whole lot. You might find a bubble or a bubble bursting where you have a chance to buy on a dip, but if you do see prices going down in Scottsdale, I would take advantage and jump right in because they probably won't go down for much longer because it's simple economics of supply and demand at the end of the day. Right now, the median home price across America is about $431,000 for a single family home. Conversely, in Scottsdale, it's about $1.1 million on the median home price. So it is much higher, but again, there's a diversity of housing in Scottsdale as well. You don't have to own a single family house if that's too expensive for you, but there are plenty of single family houses as well that are much less than $1.1 million. We're talking a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in the $500,000 to $600,000 range all day long through many different places of Scottsdale. Then of course you can live in a condo if you'd like, and there are 2-bedroom condos that run in the high $200,000 mark, but primarily in the $300,000 and $400,000 mark in many places throughout Scottsdale. So sometimes it gets a bad rap as everything in Scottsdale is going to be very expensive and there's hardly cheap places to live, but there are cheaper options if you want to be in the geographical area of Scottsdale and be close to everything that it has to offer. Now, if you want some space in Scottsdale, there are plenty of options for you on that. Now, in central Scottsdale, there's this cactus corridor area that is a great place to live. Now, right now, if you want an acre lot in this area of town with no HOA and the flat usability of a lot, back in 2021, if you check my video, that would run you about $950,000 for the dirt itself. Well, that same dirt now is going to run you on average about $1.5 million plus or minus for that same exact piece of dirt. So prices have increased, and that type of real estate product in particular has got very popular. And whereas that house, when it's finished, might cost you between $3 and $4 million, depending on the average size of what you build, that same property will be anywhere from 4.5 to 5.5 now, depending on how big you go and many other factors. But the point is the costs have gone up. And again, because they're not making any more dirt, chances are if you want something more unique like that, it's going to continue to do well in the future and become more and more valuable. Now let's talk about rent. In Scottsdale, rent back in 2021 for a single family house was $2,350 on average. Now, that same average rent is $3,070 for that same average single family house. But if you want a condo, the average rent was $1,414 in 2021. In 2025, that same rent for a condo is $1,890 a month on average. And with housing, you're gonna have all the things that come with it that you need to survive or at least operate in that house. And that's gonna be things like utilities. Now, utilities were always under the national average of 100. And if you look at where they are this year in 2025, utilities come in at 8% below at a score of 92. So at least you get a little break on the utilities, even though you might be paying more for housing. Oh, and by the way, the internet, which is really important because most people now for TV will even stream services like YouTube TV or Hulu, is still very reasonable. You have options through most places of Scottsdale of Cox cable or CenturyLink with the fiber. Now, Cox also offers fiber as well in many different places. But if you want a good speed internet, you're gonna be looking around $70 to $80 a month, and that really hasn't gone up a whole lot over the past several years, which is a great thing. But if you want a super high speed, it's gonna go up from there. But again, not a bad deal for a decent speed internet service per month. Let's talk about transportation. Transportation in Scottsdale is also below the national average at 96, below a scale of 100. So that's good. Now, there is no public transportation in terms of a light rail or an L type train situation throughout Scottsdale, but there are places where the city bus has transportation throughout Scottsdale. And if you're in the Old Town Scottsdale area, the trolley is a phenomenal thing you must try. The trolley service does run mainly through Old Town Scottsdale, but it does venture out of Old Town Scottsdale in certain places. And it's just a cool looking older bus that makes you feel like you're being thrown back in time a little bit riding on a trolley. Something that makes you just feel good that you have to try. Oh, don't forget about Uber and Lyft. They are everywhere. And Waymo. Have you seen Waymo, guys? Waymo is the driverless car with all the cameras spinning everywhere on it. And I don't know how they do it, but those things are smart. Now, I haven't taken a Waymo full disclosure because I don't think I want to. I'd rather actually trust the human element, which is probably crazy. But what would you do? Would you take a Waymo if you lived in Phoenix or Scottsdale here and actually would take a driverless car to where you want to go? Or would you trust the human element with Uber and Lyft and go that route? Comment below. Let us know. I am very curious because frankly, I haven't done it and I don't think I will anytime soon. Let's talk about healthcare. Healthcare is an extremely good system in the Scottsdale area. In fact, Scottsdale is home to one of 3 locations across America that has the Mayo Clinic. Mayo Clinic is world-renowned and kind of speaks for itself in terms of its track record for great healthcare. You also have the Honor Health System, the Banner Health System that run throughout the different areas of the city, and phenomenal amount of world-renowned physicians as well for just about anything you could want or need. And with all of that, what's the score for healthcare? 104. It's only 4% higher than the national average, which I thought would actually be a little bit higher. So that's great when it comes to healthcare, because I know a lot of people, if they have the money, might be a little more experienced in life up there in age, and healthcare is a really important big deal. So that is great news if you're looking to move to Scottsdale. So what does all this cost? What does all this mean for actually being able to afford to live in Scottsdale? Well, if you're a single person, they say that you need to make around $75,000 at a minimum to be able to afford living somewhat comfortably in Scottsdale. And if you're a family, they calculate you need to be at least $138,000 a year to be able to live comfortably in Scottsdale somewhere within the city. So where does all this lead you to? Well, what's the final score, the overall score for cost of living to live in Scottsdale compared to the average national city? That's what I want to know. When you take everything into consideration and break it all down, things that are more expensive, things that are less expensive, where does Scottsdale rank? Now, I didn't hit all the categories we possibly could break down because this would be an extremely long video, but the bottom line is that Scottsdale comes in 2025 at 106. That's right, 106. So if you can get past the housing aspect and get your monthly payment, whether you rent or buy, down to an affordable amount that hopefully is at 28% of your income or less, that's what the kind of national average is, then everything else is, at the end of the day, not terribly expensive to afford compared to most other cities across America. And on top of that, you get all the entertainment, all of the shows, all of the weather, all of the beautiful living, the sunny days, well over 300 days of sunshine a year. And if you can put up with the season of hot, because you know in Scottsdale there are only 2 seasons, right? Hot and awesomeness, or I should say pure awesomeness. But if you can get past the 4 months of extreme heat, because let's be honest, it is extreme heat and it's hot, then Scottsdale is just a phenomenal place to live. No natural disasters, weather that you can kind of depend on all the time, where you don't have huge swings in temperature or just overall weather in a given day, let alone a few days. You can kind of wake up every day and kind of know you're going to expect to probably get, well, sunshine and a little bit of warmth. And that is a good thing for most people, and that's what they love about Scottsdale. So again, you can put up with the summer, or maybe you can leave and go up northern Arizona to Flagstaff, or maybe you have a summer home somewhere else outside the state, then wow, being able to afford both of those things really is most people's dream. Okay, I may have went a little strong saying it's someone's dream, but for some people, it probably is. Outside of that, I am just laying out the facts of what we have experienced living in Scottsdale for 20 plus years at this time. Time has flown by. I thoroughly enjoy what I do, so if you have any questions, call me at 480-660-5974. I would love to chat with you about everything this wonderful city has to offer. And there's plenty of other videos I have on my channel about other places around Phoenix. So maybe Scottsdale is not your cup of tea. There are plenty of other options around the city of Phoenix and other cities throughout the state of Arizona. So call me at 480-660-5974, and I hope you really enjoyed this video for your education and entertainment. Oh, if you want to see another great video about Scottsdale, check out the video right here on the best affordable places to live within Scottsdale and the hidden gems. And don't forget to call me.